Mid-Autumn Festival is just around the corner, so today let's make some savory mooncakes, which are delicious pastry pork pies. For the pork filling, we're using pickled mustard greens, green onions, minced ginger, 220 grams of minced pork, cooking wine, soy sauce, sesame oil, cornstarch, salt, 5 spices, sugar, and white pepper powder. The quantities here are for reference only and makes about 8 pies. You can adjust the seasoning to taste. For the mince, it's best to use 70% lean and 30% fatty pork so that the filling is nice and juicy. We're going to first season the pork with everything except for the salt, starch, onions, and pickles. We're leaving the salt to the end to prevent overdoing it, as the soy sauce and spices already give it that savoriness. You want to massage the pork until it is fully dressed. Here the amount yields about 8 pies because I'm making extra pastry for other goodies, so you can adjust the quantity accordingly. If you're looking for an extra kick of juice, you can add about 15 grams of lard in the mix. You may also need to add a dash of water or oil if the filling is a bit too dry. Get in there with your hands and fully immerse the pork in the seasoning. Once all the other seasoning is well incorporated, we can add salt to taste. Then add in the pickles and the green onions and use your hands to whip them up so that we get a bit of bounciness with the meat. Finally, put in the cornstarch and shape them into little domes. Place them in the freezer to set. Next, let's make our pastry shell. We've got all-purpose flour, hot water, lard or butter, and sugar. Traditional Chinese pastry uses lard, but some prefer butter and it works perfectly fine. Put everything into your stand mixer and mix until moderate gluten forms. You don't need absolute translucency here in your window pane test because we want to preserve a little bit of crispness, and so moderate level is good. Once that dough reaches the desired stretchability, wrap it up and let it rest at room temperature for at least an hour. For the pastry layer, simply mix cake flour and lard until it forms a dough and let it rest. Once rested, divide the pastry shell into 30 grams each and the pastry layer into 22 grams each. Shape them into little balls. Take a ball of pastry shell and a ball of pastry layer, flatten the pastry shell in your palms and wrap it around the ball of layer. Use the concavity of your hands to gently pull up the dough around the back to seal the ends. Let this rest covered for 15 minutes. Next, we're going to use a rolling pin to roll out the rested dough gently. Careful not to break the skin. You can use a little bit of flour to prevent sticking. Here, if you notice visible parts where the shell does not have a thin layer of pastry layer inside, you can simply cut them away. This way we'll have more even lamination where each sheet of pastry shell will consist of a pastry layer. Let this rest again for another 15 minutes. We're going to do this a second time, same technique, roll gently from the top to bottom and let it rest for a final 15 minutes. Now take your rested dough and use your thumb to dent the middle. Then use your palm to flatten the dough. We're going to take a rolling pin and roll this into a thin circular sheet in order to wrap our filling. Make sure that the final skin is of even thickness, and it can be a little bit thinner around the edges so that we can more easily wrap our filling. We can take out our now frozen meat filling and wrap it inside our pastry sheet, utilizing the same technique to gently stretch the dough and seal the back. Last but not least, you can make a decorative surface using a little water, any mold or cookie cutter you have lying at home, and a little chili or paprika powder. Simply spray the surface with water and dabble with a bit of powder. We're going to bake this at 175 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes and voila! The skin is nice and browned, crispy and flaky on the outside, yet moist and umami on the inside. It's full of flavor and textures, the perfect afternoon tea treat for Mid-Autumn Festival. If you're making extras, simply pop them in the air fryer the next day to reheat. See you next time.